This video is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com and GatheringMagic.com, your place to explore the game.
Hi, my name is Brian from the Snow Cover Planeswalker channel, and this is my Narset/Idea Enlightened Master Deck. So, Narset Enlightened Master, aka Idea Enlightened Master, was a deck that I built for competitive Commander, and I had a lot of fun with it for quite a while, playing against people like my friend Corey and his super spiky Animar deck, and so on and so forth. His cousin's, $4,000 foiled out Izuri Renegade Leader deck, and all sorts of other cool, fun decks. But ultimately, I just got bored playing the deck. Not to say that Narset is a boring commander, but she's just not my playstyle. If you don't know, you basically just go ahead and throw her out and ramp her out as early as possible and swing and get infinite turns. The best way to ensure this is to hit something like the Into the Storm, Beacon of Tomorrow's Omniscience combo, or to play the Proteus Staff and stack your library however you want. However, I don't choose to run either one of those things in here, mostly because I'm scrapping the deck tonight after the video, so I really didn't have time to go out and get those cards. Nevertheless, the deck was a lot of fun to play, and I'm sharing the list so that way maybe someone else can enjoy it, and yeah, hopefully someone else out there likes the list. This is a 3D altar of Narset done for me by my friend Jenna Andrews on Facebook. She's on the Altered Art Facebook page, so if you're on there, just go ahead and look up Jenna S. Andrews, and you can see some of her other awesome work. So those of you who don't know, Narset Enlightened Master is a 3/2 legendary creature human monk for 3, a blue, a red, and a white, with first strike and hexproof, and whenever she attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until end of turn, you may cast non-creature spells exiled with Narset without paying their mana costs. So again, you're just trying to ramp into a bunch of, crazy, expensive extra turn spells, extra combat cards, Beacon of Tomorrows, Into the Infinite, Omniscience, just whatever else that you happen to run in your particular Narset build. This was a semi-optimized build. I never exactly finished it, as I mentioned earlier. But anyway, let's just go ahead and cut to the chase and get to the deck. Mana base, won't spend too much time here. Everything's pretty self-explanatory. Mana Confluence. Cavern of Souls, make Narset uncounterable. Mystic Monastery, it's actually pretty slow and pretty bad. I don't recommend running it. I'd replace it with City of Brass. Command Tower, staple. Reflecting Pool, staple. Got my 3 original dual lands, 3 original shock lands, got the 3 pain lands, got the 3 buddy lands. Pretty standard stuff. I also have my fetch lands, my on-color fetch lands, so Flooded Strand, Scalding Tarn, and Arid Mesa. I also run Polluted Delta and Misty Rainforest for blue, Windswept Heath and Marsh Flats for white, and Wooded Foothills and Bloodstained Mire for red. So a lot of fetching going on, and the reason why is because we want to pull as many lands out of our deck as possible so Narset doesn't whiff into them. For the same reason, I'm running the 3 artifact lands, Seat of the Synod, Ancient Den, and Great Furnace to grab that with Tezzeret, and then 1 of each basic just to concede to things like Path to Exile. So then we also have some miscellaneous lands, so Ancient Tomb to help me ramp out as early as I can, Hall of the Bandit Lord to give Narset haste, pretty sweet, and I had a Tabernacle and I wanted to use it, and I figured Narset was the best place to put it. If not in Narset, then where else could it honestly go? Not really sure where I'm going to put this guy now, kind of sad. Into the artifacts, again, starting with Mana Ramp. Actually, this is just going to be our Mana Rocks, and everything here is pretty self-explanatory. Mox Diamond, ramp into Narset. Lion's Eye Diamond, ramp into Narset. Mana Crypt, ramp into Narset. Soul Ring, ramp into Narset. Mana Vault, ramp into Narset. Pretty standard stuff here, guys. Fellwar Stone. Most of the time it's going to at least be producing blue or white for us. Unless our opponent's just playing straight up green-black, in which case I think you're pretty much going to win anyway. Chromatic Lantern makes every one of your lands tap for any colored mana. Ingot, just decent mana rock. Relic, staple. Dynamo, rampant in Narset, Gilded Lotus, rampant in Narset. Nothing. You're not going to hear anything too interesting on the Mana Rocks, guys. Okay, Planeswalkers. So Jace Beleren, usually just minus him, tick him down, draw some cards. Tick him up if you have to be political, but it's mostly just there to take down for card draw. Venser, all of his modes are great. If we get to his ultimate, we can just start exiling our opponent's entire board while we're taking infinite turns. His -1 ensures Narset gets in uncountered or unblocked, and his +2 will allow us to reset Planeswalkers. Knight-Errant, give Narset 3/3 and flying. To another turn, Tezzeret goes and finds our 0-mana artifacts, like our lands. Teferi, pretty insane, never gets into his ultimate, but his +1 and his -1 are both pretty great. Narset Transcendent, again, I've never gotten her to her ultimate, but her +1 is pretty good. Never actually used her -2 because I like shuffling my cards that I use to take extra turns back in my library, so giving them rebound is not something I'm very fond of because it does exile. Ugin the Spirit Dragon, honestly not very great in here. He's decent, but you just don't earn enough permanence to make him matter. So unless you have, unless you draw into Omniscience or something with it, it's just not very good. Dak Faden, he's in here just to loot. Jace the Mind Sculptor's in here to break. Jace Storm, Rozarg was in here for the. I had a little combo that I like doing with Chain Veil, Tezzeret, Teferi, Rozarg, and a couple of Mana Rocks where I can just keep paying for it almost infinitely and untapping the Veil, then untapping the artifacts, and pump up my Rozarg and then minus it to 7 and see how many times I can do that in a row and try to take infinite turns that way. A Johnny Vengeance, he can Armageddon our opponent's lands if we get him to all the way up to 7. He can also just make sure things don't untap. And that is it for the Planeswalkers of the deck. Now we have the tutors. Again, this is not the most in-depth review. This deck is pretty straightforward and simple. Not very intricate, not very much to discuss. Personal Tutor finds a sorcery, puts it on top. Mystical Tutor finds an instant or sorcery and puts it on top. So with both of these, we're mainly just looking to go find something like Time Stretch or Beacon of Tomorrows and throw those on top of the deck so we can just take a bunch of extra turns. Enlightened Tutor goes and finds an artifact or enchantment and puts it on top. Usually we use this to go find Omniscience, sometimes Darksteel Plate. Merchant Scroll, use this to go find a Counterspell or a Cyclonic Rift or a Brainstorm. Long-term plans, usually goes and finds Omniscience or Time Stretch and puts it third from the top. Then we swing with Narset and cast it for free. Intuition usually goes and finds Aqueous Forms, Steel of the Godhead, and Spirit Mantle to make sure Narset gets in unblocked. And if our opponent happens to be, or happens to have somehow gotten rid of one of those cards, we'll just grab Plate in place of one of them. She can still get blocked, but at least she's not going to die. Some shuffle effects. Day's Undoing is the worst of them all because it ends our turn, but it's still a fixed Time Twister. Time Twister itself, pretty self-explanatory. Just reshuffle our graveyard, get a whole new hand, cast that hand if we have Omniscience in play. Time Reversal, the second worst one, but again, the shuffle effect is still pretty decent. Brainstorm helps us set up our library for Narset Swing. Ponder helps us set up the library for Narset Swing. Dig Through Time can actually find us a card we need at the right time. If we're swinging with Narset, we hit a Dig Through Time, look at the top 7, we can grab a Path to Exile and a Cyclonic Rift and just get problem cards out of the way. Supreme Verdict, we only have one creature, so generally using this is not that bad. Blowing up the entire board seems pretty good, and not being able to be countered seems pretty good. Armageddon, destroy all lands. We don't care about our lands because we're casting things for free. Cyclonic Rift, because we're in blue and should be running Cyclonic Rift. Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares are both in here because they're 1-drop instant speed removal. Alright, counterspells. Cryptic, Mana Drain, Force of Will. Yawn. Sorry guys, the deck just really doesn't excite me anymore. The counterspells are a very small selection just because we don't like hitting into counterspells with Narset Swings, but we do need to still be able to cancel an opponent's powerful card. So I did choose the most, in my opinion, the most powerful 3 counterspells that I could think of. Extra turn cards, we have Time Warp, Temporal Manipulation, Capture of Jingzhou, Walk the Eons, which we can actually buy back if we sack 3 islands. I've done that once or twice. Part the Water Veil, it's one of our weaker ones because it exiles itself. Temporal Mastery, we can miracle it for 2, but again, it does exile itself, so one of our weaker ones. Beacon of Tomorrow is again one of the stronger extra turn cards in the deck, especially if you run the into the infinite combo, where we just keep putting it back in our deck and then drawing it, then casting it, and because we're swinging with Narset, exile the top 4. There's only one. Oh well, we exile it, we cast it, take an extra turn, shuffle it. It's kind of fun. If we have Omniscience in play, we can just hard cast it, and it goes back to our library. Then we Narset it, and goes back to our library, and then next turn, we rinse and repeat. Just pretty cool card. I just didn't run the combo. Time Stretch, take 2 extra turns. Pretty self-explanatory. And Temporal Trespass, again one of our weaker ones because it exiles itself. I only ran 3 extra combat cards in the deck, simply because I only got to that point. Relentless Assault, Waves of Aggression, which is ridiculous because we can indeed retrace it as long as we have a land in hand to do so. So, nearly infinite extra combat seems pretty good to me. Fury of the Horde was one of the weakest ones, but it's what I had, so it's what I used. Okay, I mentioned these before. Aqueous Form, Spirit Mantle, Steel of the Godhead. They just ensure Narset gets in unblocked. Darksteel Plate is a backup plan to make sure she can't be destroyed. It's also great when comboed with Verdict, because we wipe their board, we still have our overpowered general, and we're still taking 1 billion extra turns. Lightning Greaves is just another way to give haste. The Shroud is unfortunate because we can no longer target her with the equipments or with the enchantments, but we gotta do what we gotta do. I was testing Scroll Rack because I just never bothered to buy one for the deck, so I just bought a gold border one to test, and I realized just how insanely broken it was. I never bought a Divining Top to run in the deck because I never really did like it to that point. But Rack is great. If you don't know, pay 1 and tap, exile any number of cards from your hand face down, then put cards on the top of your library into your hand, equal to the number of cards you exile this way, then put the exiled cards on top of your library. So basically just take all those big extra turn spells, put them on top, get some other things off the top, swing with Narset, get those extra turn spells for free. It pretty much ensures we never have a bad Narset swing again. Chain Veil, brought it up earlier about a combo that I used to run it with. It's also just great because of how many walkers we have in the deck. Scroll of the Masters gets huge quickly, and we can tap it to end up giving Narset enough power to swing in for 1 lethal strike on commander damage. Ascendancy works in a similar way, also allowing us to loot for what we want. And Omniscience is here because we're playing blue and we're scumbags like that and want to cast everything for free, like big extra turn spells. Thank you for watching CMDR decks. Please subscribe and favorite.